All right, so welcome to episode 13 of PuckPod by BD Sports, our premier hockey podcast. So we're doing a midweek episode because I believe Christmas or Boxing Day falls on the Sunday. So obviously we're going to be spending time with our family. So we're doing a midweek episode to make up for that. Let's get into it. Dave, how was your week? Or so
It's
far?
pretty good. It's been pretty short since the last time we spoke. Um, yeah, I've been at work a lot. Like this time at Longo's, it's pretty busy. So yeah, I've been going in there quite a bit.
Christian, how was your week?
So far, so good. Like we said, pretty short since we last spoke, but just finishing up a lot of Christmas shopping because I'm very much a procrastinator. I put the pro in procrastination and leave this type of stuff, the last minute. So I was at the mall yesterday, running around, doing a goose chase for a couple of things, but we were able to find them, and we're all set now for Christmas. So
How
can't
packed was the
complain. How
mall?
about you, Brian? Sorry?
How packed was the mall?
Uh, More packed than you'd expect for a not random Wednesday, but there were certain stores. Like I went to Yorkdale, which is huge
Oh,
mall here in Toronto. So, certain stores had lines outside of the actual stores. Like they were ridiculous. So more people than usual, I'd say.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely guessing Aritzia definitely
Oh yeah,
had it. Oh man, a
Aritzia.
ton of people.
I had to go into Sephora for
Oof,
I'm doing like a
tough.
secret Santa with my coworkers, and on the wish list someone put like a perfume or whatever, and so I was so lost in there it wasn't even funny. And
Oh,
I
dude,
this is what
those
happened.
places are tough. Like to
They
go
are. It was
searching
a
for stuff.
maze,
Oh
man.
my God.
Dude, literally, and it was packed. Like you had to basically just move along the wall to get past people. And I had looked ahead of time on their website. I'm like, okay, do they actually have this thing in stock? And they had it in stock in the morning. By the time I got to Yorkdale at like 12:30, 1 o'clock, gone. That's
Wow.
how fast stuff was. So yeah,
Oh yeah,
but
well,
we figured it out in the end. Yeah.
that's good. That's good. I hate Christmas shopping. I also hate shopping for women's perfume, makeup, and clothes. So,
Oh, dude,
Yeah.
Christmas shopping is hands down like one of the like has to be the worst. Thank God for Amazon where you're able to like just
Oh
get
my
shit
God, yeah.
delivered right to you. Um, but
yeah,
like before having to go Christmas shopping like actually in store with other people, and everybody's just like feral animals trying to get stuff. I don't know if you guys have noticed that. They're like
yes,
everybody just want like they'll literally rip stuff out of your hands like
yes.
to get things. It's so scary. It's like,
It's like
bro,
those.
it's not even that serious.
It's like those old 2008 videos from American Black Friday when they're trying to fight for like the Xbox or the television or
Oh my
something.
God.
So
But
much
Yeah.
enjoyment off of those videos, but like when it actually happens to you, like when it comes down to it, like are you gonna be prepared to like fight somebody off to get a perfume, basically? Like
but
I don't know, can't like
It's
will
like
you?
it's like the closest thing we've got to the purge or something. Like that's what it is.
Yeah,
It's
basically.
just a free for all, man.
but it's pretty crazy how people like fight for products and stuff. But in regards to hockey, people typically would fight for penalties. I don't know if you guys saw it earlier this week, but Cale Makar actually didn't want the
10,
power
10,
play.
10.
Didn't actually want the power play, and he decided to wave it off. What do you guys think about that, Christian?
Okay, so to me, it was like the most Makar thing I've ever seen. And just to give people the play-by-play of what happened, it's Colorado versus New York Islanders. Makar's behind the net. He's about to break out of his zone. Barzal is chasing him. So two of the best players for their teams. Barzal gives him this little light stick tap, basically on the shoulder. And Makar hesitates for a second, and then he decides, yeah, you know what? I'm a flop here. And he flops by, pretending he gets stripped. And the ref puts his hand up. He's about to call a penalty. Makar looks back, and he feels so guilty that he's like, nah, man, not a penalty. He waves off the penalty, and the ref puts his arm down. And like that's something we do not see in hockey. I don't remember the last time I've ever
I do.
seen this,
I
but
don't think I've ever
I've
you
seen
seen
do?
it.
it.
Okay.
I've seen it.
Bring that up after. Yeah. But like for me though, Makar is like this guy is so good that nobody bats an eye. Not that we don't bat an eye because we're talking about it right now. But for me, I don't criticize him at all for this because this guy is so good. He doesn't need penalties to do his thing. Like he's not that type of guy. He literally wants to just win his way. Like no one's questioning if Makar has a winning attitude because the guy just won a Stanley Cup, right? Like that's not coming into question here. Obviously, there's no chance this happens if it was the playoffs. Like, I don't think any player in the NHL would, and if they did, like, they would get absolutely flamed. But that's not what this was. And then the only other thing is, honestly, I feel like Makar, he's such a smart guy that like he understands diving is an art, and he's not a Picasso. He's no Picasso at diving, and I think that play showed it. So you know what? He's got to get some experience. He's experimenting with the dives, and maybe one day he'll get to a point where it looks kind of realistic because that one definitely didn't. Like I said, tapped on the shoulder, goes down like it was a trip. Not the best look, but I don't know. I honestly probably would have lost a little bit of respect if he didn't wave it off because yeah, like it was just it wasn't even close to what he was trying to do. Like once again, shoulder falls like a trip. So that's my take on it. I didn't mind what he did there.
Dave?
No, I'm in full agreement, Christian. Like, if he went down, I definitely would have lost respect because like that's not something that I would have expected out of Cale Makar, and I think
Yeah.
any of us in here, like that's not in his repertoire. If you said if Brad Marchand
Yes.
went
Yes.
down and like called for the ref to say like no, it wasn't a trip, I would literally be on the floor. Like, dude, I'd go buy a lottery ticket right now because like that would be like that would be a Christmas miracle if that happened.
That's like the
But it wasn't. It was
Grinch
Cale.
learning
Yeah,
about Christmas, right? That's what that is.
exactly.
Yeah.
When his heart grows like what is it,
Yeah.
3 sizes bigger? Yeah. Um, but like yeah, no, it's not something I expect out of Cale Makar. So you know what? I'll give like kudos to him for owning up. I heard that he also then went back to the bench. It was like, sorry boys. I don't know if I don't know if it was like he was saying sorry that he didn't take the call or that he dove, but either way, it's such like that's like a team captain type of mentality. You know what I mean? Like in the future, that guy, whether he's on the Avs, whether he's on any other team in the league, that guy's gonna be, if not the team captain, he's gonna be he's not an alternate right now, is he?
I doubt
I
it.
don't
I'd
believe
be
so,
I
no.
don't
surprised.
think so, right? I think he's still really young. He's got the other guys there too, Rantanen, McKinnon,
Landeskog is good, right?
Landeskog, right? Um, but 100% in the future, it's plays like that differentiates yourself from other players in the league. Like I don't know like what else, like what much more I could say. Like it's such a like breath of fresh air to see guys like, me and Brian watch the entire World Cup. I'll make this comparison. Soccer is known for being quite an Olympic diving sport. The guys in the World Cup, let's just say they train to go down pretty easily. So, in a world, and it's not just soccer, you could find that in all other sports where people just like flop down, trying to
Basketball.
get calls. Basketball does it. They're actually really bad for it too. Like they don't get as much credit for diving, and there are some hockey players that do it as well. So you know what? Kudos to Cale Makar. Instead of me losing respect for him, he actually gains a lot of respect for me for being like truthful and honest. I think that's like what you want out of I would say most guys on your team. Like you could have a couple of guys that are, you know, uh, let's just say like Michael Bunting's not waving off a
No,
call
man.
basically, right?
No.
But you need guys like Bunting on your team, but you also need guys like Cale Makar on your team, like the truthful, honest guys. So you know what? Hats
So
off to Cale. What
so
about
I
you, Bry?
so I'm in full agreement with you guys. I think that he went down really, really easily. He probably just like fell on himself, let's be honest. Sometimes you slip on the ice, right? It's legitimately like a slippery surface. But the last time I saw a player wave off a penalty, it was last year. It was Ovechkin against Vegas. It was a similar thing where near the benches, I think Pacioretty trips him up, he fell, Ovechkin just waves it off. And I think that just shows you. Well, ironically, they both wear number 8. They both have that signature slap shot from The Office, but it just shows you the different levels of classes in players. You know, when you're that good, when you're the guy, you don't need calls like that. You'll do it yourself. And Ovechkin, Makar's right up there right now in where I keep where I keep them in my head in terms of like, there are certain players that have that that are on that pedestal, and Makar is close to getting onto the actual podium at this point. I think he's that good, and we'll see him a lot in the future. Dave, you already said that's captain mentality. I have no doubt that in the future he'll be wearing an A very soon and potentially a C in the near future. Obviously, they have leaders on that team. Obviously, they're a cup winning team already. But man, that guy's a franchise level player, and it's no surprise to anybody. But speaking,
I have.
up,
Sorry, before we jump, if you're gonna jump off the topic, I have one more question.
Yep.
So you brought up like the different class of players. So I guess we could easily say Cale Makar is one of the elite defensemen in the league, and thereby in the elite class of players in the NHL right now.
Yep.
How many other elite class players are doing that though? Like, you think if we're thinking elite class players, McDavid, Draisaitl, Matthews, Marner, the list goes on. Like those types of players, how many of them though? Like I don't know. For some reason, I'm thinking
it'd
in my
be like
head,
a 50-50 split.
yeah,
That's what I
has
thought.
I'm pretty sure McDavid at one point has done something like that, but I could
It
be
seems
wrong.
like something he would do, right?
Yeah,
Like,
because I as well, like, especially, okay, maybe not recently, because recently he's been he's kind of been forced to be a little bit more chippy. I don't know if you guys have noticed,
Yes.
like when he first came into the league, he was getting bullied because like that's the only way you're gonna stop a guy like McDavid.
and
You have to like
refs
yeah,
would make the calls.
refs aren't gonna call it, right? So I feel
Yeah.
like maybe then, like I bet, like it definitely goes more unnoticed than maybe we were making it seem. Because like Brian, you brought an example from last year, right? Like I don't know, it's just such a weird topic. I just wanted to bring that up. I don't know if anybody else like
but
does that. I'll be honest with you.
pointing back to what Christian said earlier, if it's the playoffs, man, no chance that
Oh
happens.
no,
Yeah,
shot,
Game
no.
7
Listen, I
OT?
wouldn't even fault him for it too. Like I get it. It's the regular season. If it any game of the playoff that could have been game 1, minute 1, and like that happens, I wouldn't fault him for it in the playoffs because it means a lot more, right? This is game 32, 33 for the Avs. Like, I know they're struggling a bit, but like, what is that one extra power play gonna do for you in the long run?
For
Like,
the
not
defending
much.
Stanley Cup champions, right?
Yeah,
That's part of
exactly.
it too. Like, he probably still does the same thing if they don't win the cup last year. But when you're the reigning cup champs, it's like, yeah, we don't need your pity calls. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay, so in terms of teams that are not Stanley Cup champions and will not be making the playoffs likely, let's look at Christian. Christian put in our group chat a bunch of goalies in the Pacific or West or the Western Conference that make
Pacific Division, though, yeah.
seven goalies that make 5+ million with par 900 save percentages, which is not too hot for the amount of money they're making. We're gonna talk about that. Christian, do you mind just listing them off, the goalies that you had?
Yeah, and so we'll give credit where it's due. This is from a Twitter account at NHL Russell. I think he does some blues stuff. So I don't know.
Russell,
He's
come on
obviously
their show.
he's obviously he's doing a hit piece here against the other division because his Blues aren't doing too hot. So he's just trying to distract the rest of the conference by being like, "Hey, look how bad the Pacific is."
Yeah,
Right?
is he trying to deflect away from Jordan Binnington's sub
Exactly.
900 save percentage? Because he's another one making over 5 and under 900. So
What's
There
that
you go.
psychology thing where it's like, if it's
what
Projecting?
about it?
yes, yeah, he's
Whataboutism? What is whataboutism? I want to learn this now. What is that?
It's like okay, yeah, I may have just killed somebody, but what about Jeffrey Dahmer? He killed like 20 people. How are you gonna compare
something that's
the two?
not
You still
relevant,
murdered
something
somebody.
not relevant. Yeah. Okay. So you know what? He's doing both. He's doing both.
Yeah, it's like the Leafs the Leafs haven't won a playoff round since like 2004. But what about the Florida Panthers? Well, they just won it, but like before it was like 97. It's like like why are you gonna compare? You can't compare the two teams. Win a playoff round.
Okay, so I think what also makes this incredible, this little stat that this guy gave here is also the fact that I'm pretty sure these 7 goalies are the only 7 in the division who make 5 million or more. So there does not exist a 5 million plus goalie in the Pacific Division with a save percentage over 900. They're extinct, man. Anyways, here's our goalies here. John Gibson on Anaheim with an 896, and this is as of December 19, so these stats might have slightly changed. Jacob Markstrom was at an 893, Demko 883, Quick 882, Brian's favorite Philip Grubauer 882, mine and Dave's favorite Jack Campbell 875, and Cal Peterson, nobody's favorite, at 868. So those are some astonishing
Did you say
stats
868?
there, boys. 868 for Cal Peterson.
Oh.
We don't have
God.
games played totals for all these guys, but Peterson is probably on the shorter side considering he's now in the A. But yeah, guys, like, do we see any of these 7 goalies getting above 900? That seems like a pretty low bar. Like, at least some of these guys should be able to, right?
So the first goalie that you mentioned was John Gibson.
Yeah.
He was the closest to 900 on the worst team, one of the worst teams in the league. Oh my god. Yeah. I know a lot of people okay, listen. I'm like kind of hit or miss on John Gibson. I know a lot of people like have been hating on him, saying that he's like past his prime and stuff like that. But dude, that guy gets peppered in net. Like, not many. Like, you could put prime Dominic Hasek in that net right now, and I don't know if that guy's gonna be above a 900. Like, dude, 898 for a team that literally, I think they have like 2 regulation wins all year, and it's almost Christmas. So I don't know, if you put him in front of a better defense, maybe he gets like a 905. Like, that's possible, I guess. But like, holy smokes, like,
just like him, the blue line right now, man. Like,
yeah, for him. Sorry,
go
for him to be the cream of the crop of those 7, like, that's saying a lot for the other guys, right? Holy smokes.
like Gibson's decor in front of him right now. He has no Drysdale because Drysdale, I'm pretty sure, is out either like long termer for the year. Big loss. He was going to take a huge step. I would have assumed this year. So the guys that they have mercenary John Klingberg, not exactly known for his defensive play, an aging Kevin Shattenkirk, never known for his defensive play.
No.
Cam Fowler.
They have the exact same player 3 times, and because I'm pretty sure Drysdale is also not that exceptional defensively, but he's very, very good offensively, and he's also like 22. So it's like, well, how are you gonna have 3 of the exact? It's like you copy and pasted the future, past, and present players. Like, what the heck?
Like, you know what? I'm going to look right now. I'm pretty sure their best quote-unquote defensive defenseman might be Dmitry Kulikov. I think that's where they're at, and that is saying something.
Florida Panthers legend there.
Panthers legend, Winnipeg Jets legend. Yeah, they have their other guys are Nathan Beaulieu, who is Nathan Beaulieu. Simon Benoit. Can't say I'm too familiar with Simon Benoit. He's got 1 point in 30 games, so maybe he does take care of some defensive responsibilities. But yeah, Kulikov's on their top pair right now. He plays 20 minutes a night. Not the best decor out there.
Is Cam Fowler still there too?
Cam Fowler is there, yeah, and I do like Cam Fowler, but even him, he does sway more to the offensive side of things. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I don't know. Do we see Gibson getting back? I think he's injured right now, but 896.
So that's the thing.
I feel like regression says he should.
I think he's going to regress even more. Yeah, but like that's what that's my point. Where it's like, dude, an 896 for him on that team is probably like a 910 on most other teams, and it's just because of the poor structure that's in front of him. Like, he's kind of left out to dry every night. We saw it in the Leafs Anaheim game.
I think that's where he got injured too, honestly. Like, he probably got injured just from taking so many shots, man.
Yeah, dude, it was like the shots were like he let in 2, but he had like 28 shots. I think it was like midway through the second period. Like, the Leafs were on pace for like almost 50 shots on him. And okay, granted, like, they scored twice, but not many goalies are stopping 45 saves a night, like 45 shots a night. It's tough.
And you know what? This team is going to get worse. Like we're saying, it's a bad team that's going to get worse because they're going to sell off guys at the deadline. You're going to get rid of Klingberg. You're going to get rid of Kulikov. Anyone who's not attached to this team next year, See you later.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
you're right. It probably does get worse before it gets better on Gibson. Moving on from Gibson, we go
Right. Did
to
you have something to
Markstrom.
mention?
I just
Yeah,
had
do you have some?
the only thing I have to say is that he has an AHL team in front of him, like
Yeah,
legitimately an
Yeah.
100%.
AHL level roster,
He's playing with the San Diego Gulls.
and you can't really fault him per se, but I mean, I like Gibson personally. I I thought that he was very good in the years past. Now, I mean, you can't really save that team. It's like a sinking ship, right? You can try your best as a captain, like not like if you're the captain of a ship, not the actual captain of the team. If you're the captain of a ship, you can kind of like steer your way through icebergs and stuff, right? But eventually, if there's a hole in the bottom of the ship, it's going down, and that's all I really
They
have to
have
say
quite a
about that.
few icebergs on that team, let me tell you.
But
Oh yeah.
Is he UFA this year?
No man, I'm pretty sure he's got
long term,
2 or 3 more years. I'll give it a look here.
Because if he was, oh my god, no, it's not. Oh, it's 4 more
2027,
years.
man.
Oh
Yeah.
my lord. Never mind. I thought he was UFA this year or next year for some weird reason. I was gonna say maybe like if he was like okay, 6.4, 100% you're not touching touching that contract with a 10-foot pole. He's making 6.4 until 2026, 27. But
You know what? I'll give you a team who might, maybe, like, this is without
Edmonton?
considering alternative options. I wasn't even gonna say Edmonton because I feel like they're in too much of a cap hell to like do that.
Yeah. Well, if
They
you
can't
like,
figure that
maybe
out.
if you send Jack Campbell the other way, right, to clear
Oh
up,
dear
because that's like
lord!
5 mil. Like
Yeah,
at the end of the day, you're only eating like 1.4 if you're the Oilers.
I take that.
So
I,
I
I
don't
I
know.
think for me,
yeah,
I would say
yeah,
personally, I think that's an upgrade. Like I know a lot
hundred
of people are
percent.
not high on John Gibson, but like he's only it's the same. I think it's honestly the same, not the exact same argument, but like Matt Murray for the past few years has been criminally underrated because he was, he's had his struggles. I think that's fair to say. But like this year where he's starting to get back into the groove and like he's actually showing why he was and he should still be a starting goalie for an NHL team. And I think just because the Ducks have kind of been, a little bit more irrelevant this season, I think a lot of shit's been getting thrown on Gibson's name. I still think he's a serviceable goalie on any other team that has a defensive structure. I just don't think. I think his time with the Ducks is like it's over, basically,
Yeah,
right?
like for argument's sake, you throw Gibson on the Boston Bruins. What's his save percentage? Right?
My
Think
God,
just to give you of an imagination of what the hell that would look like. But the team that I was thinking of that would make a little bit of sense is the Sabres. The Sabres are going to need goalies for the future, right? Craig Anderson
yeah,
is not there for the long haul. Eric
yeah,
Comrie just got there this year, but he's not exactly a starter, like a bona fide starter. And they got Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen, who's got a top tier name, but
yeah.
I don't know. He's been there for
I
a
still
while.
think
He's kind of on the fringe.
he definitely needs a couple. Like watching him play,
Yes.
I've seen him play like against other teams as well, like not just against the Leafs. He definitely needs at least 2 more years of being like a backup before he gets like the starting spot. Yeah. Well, is Eric Comrie's on IR right now. He's making
Okay.
1.8 this year and next year.
Because
I
I think
mean,
Luukkonen played recently.
yeah.
Pretty
Well,
sure.
it's yeah, right now so it's him and Anderson, right? Like Anderson's
Yeah.
41. So realistically this should be his last year for all intents and purposes. I don't think I think he's done after this year. Like I don't know
Yeah.
how many 42-year-old goalies are you going to see in the NHL. He's still playing well at 41, but 100%. They also have Ben Bishop on IR, but like I think he's done, right? Like that's it for him
Yeah. He's
because
just
this is his
he's a
last
number on
year.
the cap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
There was a little bit
I
of a thing with him because Dallas had hired him before the season, Ben Bishop, for some like
mm,
front office role. And the NHL was basically like, no, you can't do that because his number is still on the books with another team. If
yeah.
he was
Well,
still on the Dallas Stars cap, it would have been allowed, but because it's with another team, it's like a conflict of interest or whatever, because he's getting
but
paid by another organization to work
that
for a
hasn't
different
stopped them
team.
before though. Because I swear Chris Pronger was working for the. Maybe it's because he was working for
He's
the
a-
NHL.
which is still kind of like hypocritical when you think about it.
Yeah,
Like, right? But you're
100%.
right there. You're absolutely right on that one.
Listen,
But
we could
yeah,
go into how the
the
NHL is
NHL.
like
Yeah.
awkward sometimes. Yeah,
Welcome
that's
to
it.
the
That's all you got
NHL.
to say.
Okay, moving
Um,
off of Gibson, I think we can. Or do we have any other closing thoughts on Gibby? No, okay. I think we can bunch these next two goalies together. I feel like it's a pretty similar argument, and they're at the same save percentage, 883 for Markstrom and Demko, both on Canadian teams. These goalies are better than 883. These are the two goalies that I would say should get back to 900, even if their teams don't necessarily improve. I feel like their stats have to improve. Markstrom has been a little bit in his own head, basically, since the start of the season, and because we assume because of that playoff series. Like we saw it, I've never seen a goalie like just so visibly frustrated than when I think it was Montreal. I think it was when Nick Suzuki had that shootout goal against him. And he was just like, how the hell did I let that in? Because he knew it was coming, he knew the move, and he still let it in. And yeah, like to me, Markstrom, when he's on his game, he's way better than 883. He's at least 900. Even if Calgary doesn't necessarily get to the playoffs that we expected, I feel like he's got to come back to 900. I feel like that's a given. Maybe I'm putting too much credit into past experience from watching Markstrom, but that's my take. And honestly, same take with Demko. This is a guy who was in the Vezina conversation last year.
yeah,
Demko, Vezina conversation, bad start. Canucks, terrible team to start the season. He wasn't any good. Yeah, like same thing as I said with Markstrom. Even if Vancouver doesn't get better, like they could strip it to the bone at the deadline. He's the type of goalie where we've seen it in the past. He'll take a skeleton of a team and prop them up just because he's that good. So I'm gonna give both of those guys the benefit of the doubt and not doubt them getting back to 900. How about you guys?
I'll take it.
Brian, you could go.
I think that Demko and Markstrom are in that category where they can steal a game at any night. On any night, on any given day, they can win your team the game. They're both highly, highly technical goalies, and they both have that, that ability to just perform. But like you said, Markstrom's not strong mentally. I haven't seen that with Demko really, but I could see him being frustrated with his team. But regards to Markstrom specifically, man, when he's on, he's on. When he's off, when you can tell, and that's not a good sign if you're a goalie. It's not a good sign if you're a player, and even as a human, you don't want to give away the fact that you're frustrated. You want to be mentally clear, and this is something that comes down to it in the playoffs. Who has that mental edge? Who has that mental fortitude? And I don't think Markstrom has that per se, and that's something that he should probably work on. But man, if he can figure it out, he's a class A goalie in the NHL. And
Let's
yeah,
not forget, like he went toe to toe with Jake Ottinger in that playoff series last year, that round one, where it was just a goalie fest. It was absurd.
but
It really does feel like what's in his head is simply Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl, and the Edmonton Oilers, and it does feel like that's expanded to other teams. He's letting that specific round affect his overall play, but it just feels like that's the crux to his mental woes right now. It's just that series, man.
going back to mental, like the mental,
Yeah,
like as a goalie, like the mental fortitude. Okay, so do you guys remember 2019 Binnington, like that playoff run where he was just cold,
absolutely.
right? When you
Ice
look at
cold.
Vasilevsky, when he plays, no emotion, he just does his job.
Shusterkin as well.
Yeah, like you need that. You need a goalie that's level-headed, calm, and I haven't really talked to you guys much about this, but I'm really, really big on psychologists in the locker room. I'm really big on getting a personal psychologist, especially for goalies, because that position is 95% played in your head, and the rest is just talent. Because we've seen it. If your goalie is frustrated, man, they get leaky, and it's
You don't have line mates on the ice if you're a goalie. You're not
no.
going back to the bench every 5 minutes and saying, "Hey, did you see that play on the ice? Maybe we should do that next time." That's not a thing as
Well,
a goalie.
you have one guy on the bench, and that
Yeah,
guy's looking for your job, basically,
yeah,
right? Like he's
yes,
the one that wants to come in. So at the end of the day, is he your teammate or your like job threat, basically, right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
there's one more thing I just wanted to point out. Mentally, it's so draining and taxing when the position you play is the only position where if you blunder, even if you're not a superstar, it's going to be played on Sportsnet, ESPN, TSN for the next month. And you're going to see that every time you turn on the TV. So, yeah, like it's tough. And mental fortitude is a big thing with goalies. Markstrom, maybe it's time to hire a psychologist or a therapist.
Honestly, but
Um,
like I feel like we're putting it. I honestly, do you think that these guys don't have sports psychologists as part of maybe not an individual, but like there's a team sports
Yeah,
psychologist
yeah.
for almost all of these
they
guys.
they
I know the
probably
Leafs
need
hired one last year, a specific guy.
they probably need a specific, like, I think goalies, to Brian's point, I think goalies need, like, you could have a team one, but I think you need a player specific one for your goalie tandem at least. If it's not like just like one on one, then it's like 1 to 2 basically, right? Like for whoever's in net for you should have access to their own psychologist like at any given time. Um, well, we saw it last year with Jack Campbell. A big reason for a lot of his success last year was he wasn't in his head because he was speaking to different people. I know it was like he had a friend that he made in the Kings organization that he spoke to quite a bit, who helped him through a lot. But I believe he also spoke to like professionals as well during his time in Toronto. And he's another one who's going to come up on this list after.
Yeah,
So 100%, yeah. I think both of them, for me personally, have the talent. Um, I think that their situations are a bit different because I think for one, in the case of Markstrom, it's definitely a lot more mentality based. Because I think Calgary still has that defensive structure where if he's able to kind of get out of his own head, he's definitely able to make like to drag that save percentage back up to respectable numbers. But in the case of Thatcher Demko, I think the team really lets him down. Like already Vancouver's defensive structure was a little bit lacking to say the least. Like they don't have the guys to play that tight style of hockey.
and the coach
We
doesn't.
mentioned
The coach isn't defensive
the
coach.
coach, yeah, exactly. That's fine. Like you don't,
Yeah,
yeah, exactly, 100%. But like even still, like the defensive options that you have there, like
yeah.
team
Actual
defense,
personnel.
the actual personnel, they weren't gonna be a defensive team by any stretch of the imagination. They definitely had to like rely on more scoring, and they're not really doing much of that either. But 100% like he's proven that he can he could steal games. He could also steal
Yeah,
series. Like that's important, right? Stealing a series is huge for your development as a goalie, right? So between the two of them, I'll be honest with you, I see Jake Markstrom being the first to have the turnaround this year. I think Demko won't hit 900 this year, but I think a season of reset, and I think the Canucks have finally found the error of their ways of like the whole construct of their team, and I think it's going to be a new look Vancouver Canucks for next year. Whether that's I know the quote in the media was basically the only person that's untouchable is Elias Pettersson. I know Quinn Hughes is on the market, but they're looking
it's
for
not
like
happening. It's not.
that's
Quintus
gonna
is
be
not going anywhere.
but guys like Brock Besser, guys like
Yeah.
JT Miller, I know he just signed his long-term contract, so that's gonna be tough to ship him out. But all the guys that really aren't in plans for the next few years, you got to look at moving them out, right? So I think we're gonna really have a new look, Vancouver Canucks for next year. So maybe that's gonna give me hope that Thatcher Demko is able to have a rebound maybe next year and prove to everyone why he is such a highly rated goaltender.
Let's go to the LA
Quick,
guys.
quick side note, just on the psychology front, and I was talking about how the Leafs hired a specific guy last year. Do you know who that was, Dave, by chance?
Off the top of my head, I don't.
So we hired a guy last year. I don't know if he's still with us this year, but Greg Harden is the guy's name. And Greg
Related
Harden,
relation to James.
honestly, I don't know. I'm not too sure. I doubt
That'd
it.
be crazy.
It
Imagine.
would be crazy. Yeah. Anyways, He's best known for his work with being a consultant with 7-time Super Bowl champion Tom Brady. The Leafs
Oh.
literally brought in the psychologist of the GOAT football quarterback. That's what we brought in last year. Didn't necessarily bear any fruit last year, but that's a high profile.
I wouldn't
hire
say
last
that
year.
because like if he was working like with a lot, case in point, like Jack Campbell, like I know the end of his tenure like kind of was a little bit shaky, but like I would say the first, well, they hired him last year, so the first like half season, I would say he was definitely he definitely had some effect, 100%. Like I don't think he had like no effect, and even like for the rest of the team as well. Like you could tell that they were actually in a better mental state, like for long stretches of the season, even going into the playoffs. Like they didn't look as
You
frustrated.
guys had a successful year last year, like end of
Yeah,
story.
and
Yeah,
even the
Yeah.
series, like this is the first series where it felt like the other team beat us and not ourselves.
So
yeah,
Um,
it
100%.
worked. It
so
worked.
So he
yes,
definitely
yes,
did something, 100%. So he
yes.
definitely helped.
Let's say the process improved, 100% process
The
improved.
results just aren't there yet. Exactly.
Yes,
Unfortunately,
yes.
right? It's
But
been like that for how long? But
oh, Greg
Okay,
Harden, yeah, no,
let's go to the
definitely a
LA
good hire.
guys.
shout out
Yes.
Greg.
Shout out Greg. Not shout out um, Jonathan Quick and Cal Peterson. We'll group them together there. Yeah, I think LA is going to have to find some other options. Quick, I feel if you stash him as your backup, maybe give him a phantom injury, have him play a little bit after the deadline. Like he's I we had this conversation last time talking about LA. To me, he's just a great option to have in the playoffs. Let's say your starter goes down. If the LA Kings can say our backup is Jonathan Quick, I think that puts a little bit of fear in the other team, just because of the historic precedents that Jonathan Quick has set in the playoffs. Um, I don't think that either one of these guys are getting back to 900 in the regular season, though. Do you guys feel any different?
No, but
No.
I also don't feel like Quick specifically. Well, Peterson, like who cares? It doesn't matter. He's
He has
irrelevant.
to be in the NHL to get
Yeah,
to 900. So
but
that's one step at a time, Cal.
Quick I think is exonerated of all sins regardless. Like I don't know if you're an LA fan, you can't ever blame this guy for anything. He stole you a cup, and yeah, that's the moral of the story. I mean, looking for the future, they gotta look elsewhere, 100%. But
Yeah.
like, if any other team had Quick, if any, like you wouldn't hear about this because that guy would already have a statue outside the building. But yeah,
I think for the future for them, they really got to start looking at drafting. I don't think that they should go out into like a free agent goaltending market to solve their
They're
problems.
gonna need to though. They
Dave, you
need a
stole
they
my
need a
point.
stop
Like,
gap at the least.
I was gonna
They
say
need
that
a
Yeah,
at the end. I was gonna say that about
really.
all teams. Yeah,
Sorry.
but you guys know my
But,
style.
okay.
That they well, everybody needs to draft a goalie, 100%. Like that's 100%. Like that's where you gotta like you can't go into the free agency because like you look at how many teams have been burnt just this year alone. You could even take it back to like a few. I could go as far back as Florida signing Bobrovsky, who's like hit or miss, right?
Yeah.
Like look how many teams this year were burnt by free agent goaltending. Like you have to draft your own. Like it's so tough to buy a goaltender. And I know Brian's point will be sorry, Brian, but like you draft your own goalie to work with the system that you have, right?
Yes.
That's been Brian's point for as long as I've known him, right? Like he'll go back to the Holtby situation, right? Like so 100%. I think right now Brian makes a really really good point. Like stole one cup like 110%, you pin 2012 on Jonathan Quick. He also played fantastic in 2014. He also played fantastic 2011. Oh, sorry, not 2011, 2013, and I think maybe 2015 as well. Like those like years where it was like them and the Hawks in like the conference finals. It was like it could have went either way, and it was like whoever won that series probably won. Well, they did. They won the cup, right? Like if you came out of that, you were gonna win the cup. So I think like he's another one too. It's like when did we I've always seen so much like hate towards Jonathan Quick. Like he's somebody I grew up with and I really liked watching when I was younger, especially cuz like the Leafs sucked and like we didn't have anything going for us. So it was like, it's nice to see some
We did
good
a lot of
talent on
window
the team.
shopping. We did lots of window
100%.
shopping. Yeah.
100%.
Quick
Like
is just like, sorry,
he's
yeah,
just
Dave.
so like I don't know. He was always so reliable until he wasn't as reliable. So
Yes. Yeah.
it's
Father
tough to.
time.
I hate to fault goalies all the time. I know he's definitely regressed. Like there's no doubt about it. Definitely, if any team tries to go for him, if I mean, he had a pretty good bounce back last year. I think we brought it up before in the playoffs against the Oilers. Like he really held his own.
But
So that's pretty like that's something to maybe next year, maybe 2 years from now, because I know he's going to be there until the end of time, basically.
let's
Um,
let's go to Seattle.
yeah.
Brian, take this one. Philip Grubauer. What does Philip Grubauer look like when he sucks?
Not too good. he he's not
Thank you.
cold. He doesn't have that like that 2019 Bennington look on him. You can tell he's a little bit frustrated, but he's not like breaking sticks. So he has that for him. Grubauer was to me was always a system goalie. He played in front of a good defense, good structure, but he wasn't naturally talented. You know what I mean? He there's some goalies that just have that charisma when they play, that confidence. Grubauer has the okay. The defense is good, so I'll play good. I don't know how.
Would you call him a positional goalie, or like what's his
100%
play style?
positional.
Is he just he's positional? He's just a big body that if he's in the right spot, he'll probably stop the
Yeah.
puck. Yeah. Okay.
But
All right.
I think that he's fallen off since he left us specifically. Obviously, I just stint in
He was
Colorado.
serviceable in Colorado. Yeah.
Yeah, he was definitely good, or passable at least, right? But with
Yeah.
us, he was challenging Holtby, and maybe you can tip that off to our team at the time, right? But at the end of the day, if he's not performing now in Seattle, it's not looking too good.
Yeah. You guys, you know how I felt about your decor when you guys made that run. Like I loved Michael Kempney, and then you replaced him with Nick Jensen. Like those were guys that really, really solidified your guys' decor there. When you guys made the cup run, I know Jensen was after, but so yeah, I know that's a good point that it's a systems thing. So suffice to say, you're not seeing him get to 900 with Seattle.
I can see it. I mean, it's possible. I think that he can do it. It's just I'm not betting on it. It's more of a I'll watch and see
Yeah.
if he does it. I hope I'm happy for him. But if not, I mean, it's Seattle at the end of the day.
I'm not counting on it either. I honestly might have a little bit more faith in Martin Jones because Martin Jones has shown he's an aberration this year and could actually play some goaltending. So yeah, I'm not counting on it. How about you, Dave?
I mean, I'm very surprised that Martin Jones is even like. I
know.
thought that guy was out of the league. Like, I'll be honest with you.
When
I
Seattle
thought,
signed him, I was like, "What the hell are you doing? You have a goaltending problem, and you're bringing in
and
this
you're
guy."
bringing in Martin Jones, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought personally that I literally don't know how. I guess that's another thing. Like, how the Kraken are currently third in the division. They also have played 4 less games than both the Kings and the Knights, who are in front of them. 2 less points than the Kings and 8 less points than the Knights. Wow. They're running miracles in Seattle right now, I guess.
I think that
because
I haven't seen the numbers, but I think that Matty Beniers might have the best value per dollar like in the league right now.
He's on an
could.
EOC, so that'll do it for you. But honestly, boys, like I'm looking at they have a lot of forward depth. They have a very balanced group of forwards. They don't have a single forward in their top 12 right now with less than 10 points. The forward with the least amount of points is Ryan Donato, who scored 4 games in a row. He's got 7 goals, 3 assists for 10 points in 27 games. Every other forward on this team has more than 10 points. How many teams can you say that about at this point in the season? Because obviously you'd hope that a lot of teams, right? Like just going up and down the lineup, a lot of guys in the 0.4 to 0.6 points per game range, just really dependable dudes. And then at the top of it is they've got this line that's just really clicking right now. Jared McCann, 15 goals right now, 6 assists for 21 points. The aforementioned Beniers with 11 goals, 13 assists for 24 points. And Eberle, he's got 25 points in 31 games. That's been a line that's really clicking for them. And then we'll shout out Brian who loves Burakovsky. 28 points in 31 games for him,
I
Brian.
Leading the
also
team as
I
well.
also really like Gord.
Leading the team.
Yeah.
I do like Gord, and I'll tell you a guy that I love, like just a true team identity guy. Brandon Tanev. I've always been a big fan of Brandon Tanev. Speedster, really physical guy. They have him on the third line, or no, on the fourth line right now. But even for that, he's got 15 points in 31 games. If you're getting a 40-point season out of Brandon Tanev, that's just all gravy on top of the intangible stuff that he gives you. So I do like their forward depth there. But obviously that has no impact on their goaltending.
One more thing on Seattle, just like a general thing.
Yeah.
If you look at their roster, I really like how their whole team is just a bunch of like castaways, toys that like no one really
It's the Vegas.
appreciated.
It's the Vegas.
That's
thing.
where I was going.
Yeah.
But if you look at
Yes.
like Burakovsky, casted away from Washington, like not loved, goes to Colorado, wins a cup, cast away again, and now he's leading the pack. Like I love that story. Yanni Gord, the ninth guy on the Bolts team, thrown away.
On a cup.
Wenberg.
How about Daniel Sprong, former Capital Daniel Sprong, 17 points in 24 games.
I think even like Jordan Eberle, like highly
I love
rated.
Eberle, Brian.
Yeah, Jordan Eberle has always been a consistent, like not underperformer, but always consistently underrated. Like especially being drafted so high by the Oilers, and then your stock starts to fall as the Oilers. They don't improve, and then you also have to contend with 3 other first overall picks, like in when Yakupov was there, McDavid, Taylor Hall when he was there. It's just like it was so tough. Even like Nuge was drafted pretty high as well.
He was the number one.
Was he another number one?
Yeah, he
was.
was.
He was number one. Yeah. Eberle wasn't. Eberle, I think.
I know
like
he was a 3, 4, or 5 pick.
Yeah.
But like Eberle always kind of got like
one.
shifted to the to the back, and then he left to go to join the Islanders, right?
Do you guys remember how he got
Islanders.
there? Do you remember that trade? I was looking at this right now.
Oh,
it was a 1-for-1.
Ryan Strome, no?
Oh,
Ryan Strome.
Yeah, it was Ryan Strome.
Do you remember what the Edmonton Oilers did with Ryan Strome?
They traded him.
They turned him into
like Carpenter,
Griffin Reinhart,
4th or something like that.
Ryan Spooner. They turned him into
Who did they trade
debacle.
for? Who did they trade? Because they had Griffin Reinhart. No, did they not pick Griffin Reinhart?
That trade is so absurd.
Yeah,
they traded their first round pick, which was 15th overall. I'm pretty sure it was the
Barzal.
number. Yeah,
that's right.
They turned. Can you imagine that? And this is also the Bruins triple pick
blunder.
year there. The 2015 draft, not even just for the talent, but just the drama. Like,
I mean,
what the Bruins did there, right?
Granted, they got Jake DeBrusk out of one of those 3 picks, but like you could have had what was it?
Barzal, Connor Chabot, Besser.
Barzal. Holy smokes!
You guys ever seen? Oh my god! I saw this hilarious comment by somebody one time where it's like it's a stupid. I know this guy is like obviously not in good terms. I'm pretty sure he's in prison right now. R. Kelly, where it's like it's the remix to Ignition, Boston Bruins edition. Could have had Barzal, Connor Chabot, ended up with Zach Senyshyn. Like it's an incredible comment. It even like it rhymes. It's so good. Well, I'll never forget. Because pretty sure it was Zaboral, DeBrusk, Senyshyn. I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. I'll never forget that. That's okay. A little bit off the.
Oh man! So every time funny. I see the picture where it's like there's that one picture that always floats around. It's like the 3 Boston picks, and then it's like the next 3 picks. It's like you know what that comes under? It's like it's under the images that precede unfortunate events, like for the NHL. I saw that they must have posted that like 5 times in the past like 3 years. It's just like that's their evergreen tweet. It's those 6 picks.
Thank God they did not end up with those 3 guys. And how they came up with those. Yeah, sorry.
So sorry. The point to my thing was like honestly, shout out Jordan Eberle thriving in Seattle. Sorry, that's all I wanted to say. Like I've liked Jordan Eberle for a long time. I've always wanted him to do really well. Watching him at the World Juniors, like when we were a kid, like brought so many Like we could, like he's literally scored one of the most clutch
Can you
World
believe it, Dave?
Junior. Yeah, can you? Yes,
I
I can.
can.
Apparently, I can. Shut up. Was that Who was that?
McGuire.
That was
It was
Pierre
McGuire.
McGuire,
Pierre.
dude. That guy should never have a job in hockey. Can you believe it?
Taking
I can.
this guy
And
was an
he,
assistant general manager with the Senators
oh,
last year. Like,
that guy coached. Have you heard the story of when he coached Hartford and like nobody respected
no,
him?
no.
The whole team like walked over him. Like he would say something and they'd be
Uh,
like, "Shut up, Pierre," and then they would do something else. It was
at a
like,
certain point, like it is just like straight up bullying, but also like the guy doesn't help. The guy doesn't help his cause, right?
no, he
Like,
doesn't, not at all.
no, he doesn't. It's a little bit insufferable. But we'll spare McGuire from any more hate. The last goalie on our list that relates to Eberle, very indirectly, is Jack Campbell, uh, present Oiler, former Oiler. Yeah, I don't think any of us expect Campbell back to 900 this season, do we?
No.
I'm not expecting it this season.
No,
I think that Skinner is really
Yeah,
good. That's what I
he
think.
is. So part of Campbell's climb here is going to be getting enough games to even help his save percentage back up to 900. No, that's another guy who could benefit from a phantom injury, to be honest, right? And we saw that kind of last year with the Leafs, where phantom or not, he was just like, "Yeah, my neck kind of hurts," or something. I think it was his neck, and he went to the A, came back, wasn't necessarily back to his former self in the regular season, but once the playoffs hit, he was a changed goalie. He was back to like he's not the reason we lost the series last year. Basically, kept us in it. So he could definitely benefit from just a mental reset. But it feels too far down the path. Especially being at 875. It's not like he's at an 890, 875. That's a lot. How many goalies do you know bring up their save percentage fluctuates 0.25%, which doesn't seem like a lot, but in NHL goalie terms,
It's a
that's a
lot.
lot. That's a
yeah,
lot. So it'd be a stark change that would have to get Campbell back to 900. So that's all the goalies there. The Pacific, where $5 million goalies go to die, and if you don't make 5 million, you're probably a decent goalie. Looking at like Logan Thompson there, right? So that's the key, guys. Just bring it. Just sign whoever's a free agent goalie right now, less than 5 million, and they'll be fantastic
I
for you.
I just wanted to bring this up one last time. I can't like stop because it's such a big point for me. You fix your system and then you draft a goalie that fits that system. Look at all the teams in Pacific, specifically all the goalies we've looked at. Which teams have a broken system? Pretty much all of them.
all of them. That's a good one.
I say, Brian,
Except
like
for
that
like
makes
the Knights,
total
maybe.
sense. Yeah, like it makes total sense what you're saying, but I feel like goalies more than any other type of prospect take the longest to get to the NHL. You have to have a lot of continuity in your organization for that system that you implement to be the same system when the goalie arrives that you drafted. Leafs have drafted Ian Scott, Joseph Wall, just signed this free agent goalie Dennis Hildeby in the offseason, Artur Akimov, Russian goalie. These guys
Petruzzelli.
haven't stepped foot. Keith Petruzzelli. Joseph Wall just started playing some games for the Leafs. Like, and not every organization has been good enough to have the continuity that the Leafs have had. We've been lucky enough where even from basically from 2016-17 till now, there's been a lot of continuity. Even if the coaches have changed, a lot of the philosophies still exist. Not every team can say that. You have to have a lot of foresight. It's more like I don't know if you can draft into the system. It's the same argument as drafting for need or drafting best available player. I think that's the comparison I'd make. If a goalie is the best available player, you take him. But I don't know. I don't know if you can have the foresight to bring in a certain goalie for your system when it takes them 4 to 5 years to get there.
It's I understand like that. Yeah, goalies take a long time to develop, but the thing is like their team identity shouldn't take time to change or develop. It should be a mentality that's set foot from the day you walk into
For like 20
the
years
building.
at least.
It's not it's more not it's more or less the identity of the team. You know, this is what we're gonna do. This is the identity. We're gonna push him out, push like the offender, like the attacking player to the side. Look at Carolina, for example, right? Their goalie's been rotating doors, but why do they always perform? Because the system's there,
I, I
right?
talked about them 2 episodes ago, and they just decided to win. Pyotr Kochetkov is like literally in the Calder race now. I think he's like 11-1. He's
They're
absurd,
on 6-game win streak, I think.
something like that. Paul, I highlighted the two guys who didn't have a goal on the season. I was like, yo, Paul
And they
Stasny's got
scored.
0 goals. Derek Stefan's got 0 goals. I think they both got
Even
2.
Teuvo Teravainen has like 2 now.
Yeah, he scored 2. Yeah, so you're welcome, Carolina.
Crazy.
I think that's the point I'm getting to here. No, I'm joking. Yeah, Brian, I'd say one last point on this front. And this is just something we've seen with Kyle Dubas. I feel like some GMs are getting the feeling that goaltending isn't as important in the modern NHL because there's a lot of goals. The average save percentage has gone down to like 905. And I think a lot of GM's philosophies now are going to be just get a decent goalie, and it doesn't matter. The variance between the average goalie and the slightly above average goalie is not enough to justify spending $5 million on a guy in free agency versus you get this Ilya Samsonov guy for $2.5 million. So I think that's the way. Look at Colorado, Georgiev, right?
I think that there's actually a way to bridge both of your sentiments, right? So Brian is a big believer in drafting, right? I think the best way to merge is if you have your team defense to be structurally sound, you can do what you're saying, Cristian, in bringing in a cheaper option to overperform. And then if you don't want to keep that cheaper option, you can always go out and find the cheaper options to come in and play and let that other cheaper option go and make the money. In this case, it was Jack Campbell. We found basically spare change from the Kings. We didn't really give away that much to get Jack Campbell in hindsight. He looks like for a stretch there, you could have legitimately said that Jack Campbell was in the Vezina race. He wasn't top.
We had the whole Olympic conversation too.
Exactly,
like,
right?
That was a thing.
That was a thing, right? But I don't think it was so, like, of course you have to have the talent, but I don't think it was solely based on talent. You could get away with guys like Brian brought up before in Philip Grubauer, who wasn't technically talented, but did the job and stood behind a strong defensive team. And I'm not just talking about like your 6 to 7 defensemen. I'm talking like team defense, like your forwards are coming back and they're blocking shots. They're taking away the puck in the neutral zone. In the defensive zone, they're getting into the corners, right? Even in the offensive zone, you're playing like a high possession style of hockey.
I just don't understand how GMs can give $5 million, let's say, to a guy that's never worn the sweater, A, and B, you don't know fits the system. It just doesn't make sense to me. I mean, we did it this year, but Kemper is a different story. But if you look at, I don't know, Jack Campbell, for example, or I don't know.
I feel so bad. We must mention that guy's name.
Jack Campbell, man.
His name in like every episode so far.
Let's just say, like, yeah, he is. We always bring him up, but like James Reimer and Jack Campbell, I always wanted that to somehow happen in Toronto because they would have been perfect for each other. Like, could you imagine if Jack right now had James Reimer, like just the two happiest dudes. Like Jack could just go to the bench and James would be there and he'd be like, Jack, you're the effing best. Just go out there and do your thing. Like, I feel like that would have been a match made in heaven. I just want to say, like, Jack Campbell, that's where I hold him with James Reimer. Just what a good dude. And it's just so unfortunate that the goaltending hasn't held up.
Does James Reimer drag Jack Campbell's save percentage up from the depths of hell? I don't know.
I don't know, man. That's how good James Reimer is, bro. No,
that's 25 points you got to make up. I was going to mention it before, but like Jack Campbell could have 2 shutouts, right? Like back to back.
Yeah.
And then allow like a, if you're letting on 4 goals on 25 shots, like your save percentage is at like, I think that's like an 860, 850, I believe. Like, it averages out basically to like a sub 900 as well. So it's just so hard to drag 25 points up from like it's a lot harder to drag the points up than it is for the
No, it's
points
like a
to
high
come
school
down,
average.
basically, right?
Yeah.
It's like school,
Exactly.
bro.
Dude, moving high school averages up to me, dude. I was on
Oh, man.
the exam calculator like the
Oh,
whole
yeah.
month of December, basically,
Oh, yeah.
every
And
year without fail.
I just have one more thing I just wanted to like give a little bit more to Edmonton for. Your system is not like Toronto. Like they have structure, they have a
The
decent
personnel
system there.
also sucks.
Yeah.
Oh my
They
goodness.
have neither.
You have a bunch of castaways from Toronto. You have the 2019-20 Leafs. You have Cody Ceci and Tyson Barrie. Not exactly. Honestly, Cody Ceci has actually been decent defensively in Edmonton, but Tyson Barrie, we know what
That's
Tyson
a
Barrie
fourth
is.
forward. That's
He's
an
a fourth
extra
forward.
forward you
Like,
have.
give
I
me-
think he's on an 18.8 game point streak. I think I heard the broadcast mention yesterday. I was catching like 5 minutes of the Oilers game, but he's not helping out Jack Campbell.
And it's not even just those two. It's like even Darnell Nurse too. Like
for $9
he's
million.
not-
Who was the player that chirped him?
Oh
Man,
was that
you
somebody
know
on
what I'm talking
Minnesota?
about?
Yeah,
Was it
yeah.
Jordan Greenway?
What? Yeah, you're right. It was.
Or was it
Jordan
Joel
Greenway.
Eriksson
Like,
Ek?
dude, you make
Yeah.
no. It was Jordan Greenway. It's like you make $9 million. What do you do? It's really good.
That's such an
Really
awful
good.
chirp. Like
right.
that's so demoralizing.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
We're at our 60 minutes. You guys want to say anything before we go on break?
Enjoy your bathroom break, Brian.
Go pee. Yeah, go pee.
All right, we'll be right back. All right, we're back. I just got back from the washroom. Actually, so did Dave, and I think Cristian went to
No.
go get water, right?
I got some water.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so we just finished talking about goalies. Jack Campbell. Jack Campbell used to play for the Leafs. The Leafs made a really super irrelevant trade. But you know, these guys want to talk about it. So tell us about the Malgin trade, boys.
Let's do Bunting first.
Bunting?
First.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do Bunting. I'll make it very short and sweet on Bunting. And what we're talking about is the shop. And if you didn't see the shop, it was against Tampa Bay. This was on Monday.
Tuesday.
Yeah, today's Tuesday. Tuesday night, Leafs Tampa. Leafs are going to town against Tampa in the first period. The period comes to an end. Little scrum behind the net. Bunting's involved, and then eventually he's off the ice, but he's going to the dressing room, and he's just sitting at the door, and he's trying to get back on the ice, and the referee is there. It just gives him two good shoves, like two aggressive shoves, as in like you're not getting back on the ice, forcing him to go to the dressing room. And Bunting's just like, what the hell? What is this? This is crazy. You're a ref. What are you doing? And that's the basics of it. I did not. Obviously, yeah, like that shouldn't have happened. If you're a referee, there's no need to use excessive force, especially when the player isn't showing that force back. Obviously, like if Bunting did that to a ref, that's
10 games.
suspension worthy, whatever. Yeah, like that's abusive official. But once again, like Bunting was more in shock than he was aggressive. Like there was no aggression at all. And it was like you give him one shove, Bunting's surprised. You give him another shove. Why? What not necessary at all. And that's about all I've got on it. I know Dave's going to get into a little bit more. I'm going to let him tackle this part here.
Yeah. So, like you said, Cristian, like Bunting. Okay, Bunting. When you know when Bunting's heated. So the reason why Bunting was heated was prior. Okay, so the series of events that led up to this scrum.
Yeah.
So this is like 10 seconds left in the period. I believe Nylander kind of got like edged and went kind of crashed into the boards behind the net. So this is in the Leaf zone. And then
I think it was Belmar who did that.
Yeah, the puck comes around. Yeah, so Belmar did that to Nylander, and then the puck comes around to Marner because the Leafs were on the power play at this point. And Belmar gives like the siren had gone for like the end of the period, and Belmar just gives Marner a cold cock shot to the back, like unneeded. It was like the end of the period, so that caused the big scrum. Behind the play, however, Mikhail Sergachev went lumberjacking at Michael Bunting's fingers. Like, dude, that guy was chopping for wood. He would have been he would have looked fantastic if he lived out in like up north in Ontario. Like that was like you put on your Paul Bunyan jacket and you're going out to chop down some firewood.
And listen, if anybody thinks it's not a big deal, like we've seen a dude's literal finger get chopped off by Sidney Crosby. Sidney Crosby basically chopped off the tip of Mark Mathod's finger. I don't know if you guys remember that. I remember seeing it like dangling, like so.
Gross.
Just for reference, like that's like you might think, oh, hockey gloves. What do you mean that? Like this protects from that? No, this is kind of dangerous when you do that.
But
yes, but
no, there's protection.
Good enough.
To an extent, like it's the same thing with like if you take a shot block off your knee, it's not like it's your knee's not gonna feel it. Like of course it's gonna feel like there's gonna be some impact, right? So that's what led Bunting to be like really heated, but he was getting like ushered off the ice by the official, Dan Kelly. So Dan Kelly is important to this story because he was a former player. He was in the Devils system. Brian, was he in your system as well? I think I read.
I have no idea who that is.
Okay, so fair enough. He was in
what do you mean? He won a Stanley Cup with you guys, man. He was on the fourth line with Devontae Smith-Pelly. You don't remember that, bro?
No,
you remember fourth line Dan Kelly? Fourth liner Dan Kelly. Extra four Dan Kelly. So it's important. I don't want to read too much into it, but it is important to mention that Dan Kelly was a former AHL player. He also would have been in the AHL. Oh, you know what it was? He was in AHL piece around. So we got Mike Bunting from Arizona. Arizona's farm team is Tucson Roadrunners. He was a San Jose Barracuda for a while. Like, so they would have been interdivisional opponents. Is that San Jose's farm team? I'm gonna assume.
Because the Barracuda.
Yeah. So he was I guess at the time. Yeah, he was at the time a San Jose system. He was in the San Jose system. So that's why some people are like, okay, maybe. But Bunting, even after the game, was like, yeah, like I have no idea. Like, there wasn't like really any history between the two. But there is history between the Leaf system. In 2016, he was a member of the Devils system.
Albany Devils.
He was part of the Albany Devils. And he laid a skull-crushing hit on, like, I believe it was like, I think it was blindside as well to Andreas Johnsson.
It was on Johnsson.
It was I remember seeing the hit like in 2016 because it was like Johnsson was a big prospect at the time, and then to see him go down with like,
dude, he was like the MVP of the Marlies, like when he was there.
Well, that 2017 Calder Cup run, like when they won the Calder Cup. He was the MVP, and he missed a lot of time because he was playing with the Leafs. He got called up. But, like, Andreas Johnsson was a stellar prospect in our system.
Yeah.
So, Dan Kelly was the one that... So, I believe he blindsided Andreas Johnsson, and he gave him a concussion, which caused him to miss quite a few games. Andreas Johnsson also, like, you get one concussion... You're also prone to getting more concussions in the future with like light. I know like the more concussions you accumulate, like the easier it is for you to get more concussions.
You become susceptible to them.
You really do become more susceptible. So, like I'm not gonna sit here and piss and moan and be like, oh, Dan Kelly needs to be suspended. It was definitely an excessive use of force, and I believe what I said to Cristian that night was like I was making light of the situation. I was picking on Dan Kelly. I was like, oh yeah, like Elliot Friedman's gonna come on the next night and say, like the league talked to Dan Kelly and they thought like that there was no disciplinary action needed, but the Leafs organization could go to hell because it's the Leafs and like, their fan base sucks. Basically, that's what I said in the heat of the moment. That's what I felt because I was like, "That's Mike Bunting. That's one of my favorite."
We're fans. We're going to be fans, right? That's our reaction, right? As fans. Yeah.
So now 2 days after, I don't think that there has been any contact with Dan Kelly, if I'm not mistaken. But I believe he was like not reprimanded, but kind of chastised by the head of The
I
officials,
hope
for the
so.
life of
Just
me, I can't.
giving a talking to, right?
Yeah. So listen, Dan Kelly is a third-year linesman. A lot of the guys that he's going out there with are like in their 30th year. Like these guys have been doing it for a long time. So that's why you don't see this type of stuff with other officials. And it also doesn't help that he was, playing against some of these guys as early as like 4 to 5 years ago, right? It's not a great look on him, but I think it's a good learning moment for him and any other official coming up. I know, like at the end of the day, you have to respect the officials. The officiating segment of the population has been decreasing all around. They do have to go through a lot of stuff, and I'm well aware of the type of shit that they get. And we respect the officials because like they play such an important job in such a it's always a ticking time bomb whenever you're an official, because it's like you make one call and the other team doesn't like it, and then that leads you to like it definitely makes it more susceptible to make up a call on the other team to get the other team back in your good graces, right? It's such a slippery slope to be an official. So my stance has definitely changed. Like I do feel a little bit of like pity for Dan Kelly, especially because he's been like called up by name. Like you're not supposed to know the officials' names, right? Like that's the rule. If you officiate a really good game, or the way to tell if you've officiated a really good game is if nobody knows your name. If you go quiet,
Unless you're Wes
great
McCauley,
job.
then everybody knows
Unless
you
you're
by
Wes
face now.
McCauley, yeah. He's another one too. It's just like I didn't want to know his name, and the reason why we know his name is just the stupidest thing ever, and
5
I hate
minutes
it.
for fighting.
Get out of here. Absolutely get out of here with that. I know a lot of people have the same take, but I despise that type of stuff. If you're an official,
I'm very indifferent.
it's also okay. I'm gonna bring it back to soccer again. Like we know a lot about. It's the same thing because like in the EPL, for example, in the English Premier League, we know a lot of officials' names because they say the officials, like they make a note of it now. If you watch any competition, they'll tell
Here's
you
blah 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 from Poland or Italy.
from exactly.
Yeah.
They'll tell you, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think it's probably leaning towards a bad thing because what ends up happening is people will like go out of their way to track these people down and their family and attack them for calls that they made against their team. And I think that's a terrible way to like you're walking on eggshells as an official. Like I don't know. I think it does more harm than it does. So I don't know. That's just my rant.
Yeah.
Heat of the moment type of thing. It's heat of the moment type of things here. Like
So
I don't know.
So Dan Kelly used to be a former player.
Yeah.
But I like hockey is an intense sport. There's a chance that he might have just felt like the tension and just had like the urge to just do that because like
he thought he was a hockey player again for a second.
Yeah,
potentially, or just
you thought he was
instinct,
playing for the
right?
Devils.
And you said he's only been doing this for 3 years, correct? 3 years is not a lot of time. He still has that fire in him. Just be a little more aggressive as possible. Or I don't know. I just feel like officiating as a whole, Dave, you make a good point. It's the only position in the sport that
there's no love for refs.
Yes, it's the only position that like you no matter what you do, you're gonna lose because you make a call, it's the right call. One team is unhappy because you got a call against them. Yeah. And the other team will do it the other way.
Yep. Here's the solution, boys. Okay. You guys remember the green men at the Vancouver Canucks games? Okay, all refs must now wear that suit. Okay. We don't know what they look like. Okay. Yeah. Everyone's in the green man suit from the Vancouver Canucks games in 2011. Okay? Nobody knows what they look like. Too bad if they can't see the ice. They've just guessed the calls because they're already doing that anyways. I think that'll be a great idea.
Wow.
But the doxing refs is interesting, man. Like just the idea of giving out someone's identity in the name. It's especially in such a prolific public situation, right? I don't know because you're right.
Like Dave, do you know who the ref was in Game 7 last year? Like for the Kerfoot call, the phantom call on Hedman? I don't remember the ref's name.
Off the top of my head, Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't, but I know
Yeah,
he's prone to calling stuff against the Leafs because there are like Twitter accounts. I'll
the ref scouting reports.
I'll shut them out. It's at scouting the refs.
Okay,
I do actually go on their stuff because it's actually interesting to see like some of the stuff that they have.
it's important
Um,
to look at playoff time. Like it's
yeah,
interesting.
100%.
Yeah,
So the guy, I forget his name, honestly, for the life of me.
I don't know his name
It's gonna
either.
eat at
And
me.
there's even the
I'll
Hall
find it
call,
out
like
after.
the pick right on the Tavares
Yeah.
goal. Like so,
Hmm.
like this guy, and maybe I'm being too naive here. Honestly, he probably did get doxxed right after that. But like for me, and me as Dave, as huge fans, the fact that we don't remember his name, like that's how it should be. Like we
Hmm.
said, that's how it should be. You got to get over it eventually.
But one more thing. I just like at the end of the day, if you're the better team, you'll show up that day and you'll just win. You know, you can't let the referees have
Never,
influence, right? Like you can't be like, oh,
never,
you
man.
know, today I'm gonna slash because I know this ref doesn't give away slashing calls. No,
Yeah,
you show up to work and you do your thing and you win. That's how it should be. Period.
the
If
refs should never be an excuse because as soon as they're an excuse, that does affect your play. Like you'll when you start seeing guys who they drop the stick instinctively, put their hands up, look at the ref, where's the call? You're thinking about it, man. Stop thinking about it. Play hockey. If you get the call, you get the call. But as soon as you're giving that much attention to the refs, you're taking attention away from your team system, from your defense, from your playmaking, from everything. Right?
Yeah.
I hate when I for me, I never resort to saying, "Oh, the Leafs should have won if it wasn't for the refs," because it's just a bad way to go about it. Like it's not sustainable to think like that. You put it behind you and you just go and win the game despite the refs, not because of them.
and one
Right?
more thing, legacy is never defined by the referee. Legacy is defined by the product on the ice and what you produce. So,
Tell that to Carrie Frazier, Brian.
okay,
Tell that to the guy that called the puck in the skate in the crease.
okay,
Oh man.
you guys know what I mean.
Yeah. No, I know what you
For
mean.
the
And
most part,
Yeah.
yes,
I'd
but
say like 95% of the time, yeah.
but
yes, yeah.
at the end of the day, like you got to show up regardless. All
Hmm.
right, so trades. You guys are both Leaf fans. You guys want to
Do you want
make
to do
moves this
Mulligan
offseason?
first or the trades?
Well,
We'll
let's
do
do the
like two
trades.
minutes on Malgin.
Yeah, because it's
I'll,
relevant.
Yeah,
here's
it
2
really
minutes
is.
on Malgin. So Malgin was traded. He's a tiny little guy who got lots of ample time to make it work at 2LW with Tavares and Marner slash Nylander. Never got it to work. He's noticeable. You would notice him on most nights. I'd say 60% of the games he played, you'd be like, oh my god, there's a rush chance from Malgin. Wow, that was nice to see. But barely would it be leading to anything productive. In that sense, he was a bit of a Kerfoot light. And the Leaf team needs this is not the best way to put it, but we need less Kerfoot. I know that sounds harsh, but we don't need Malgin when we have Kerfoot. Let's put it that way. We trade him for Dryden Hunt, 6 foot, average size dude who hits, who plays hard. He's got to just be a Zach Aston Reese clone, is basically what he's going to be brought in to do. Doesn't have much competition. He's got Wayne Simmons and Joey Anderson. Pretty low bar. He'll get some games after the break. Keith has said as much. And yeah, for Malgin, like me and Dave were talking about this last episode, how Trevor Moore was the comparable for Pontus Holmberg in terms of the value he brought to the Leafs. And I didn't end up finishing my thought last episode about Malgin. Kind of the parallel I saw was Barabanov. And lo and behold, he follows in Barabanov's footsteps. He gets traded. And I don't know if he's necessarily going to be as productive as Barabanov's been on San Jose, where that guy is now like in their top six. But I could see Malgin just chipping in as a 12 forward, 13th forward. They've got smaller guys who are just speedy dudes like Darren Helm and Andrew Cogliano. So there's a precedent for those types of guys to find their spots on an Avalanche roster. That's all I got really to say on Malgin. This is the second forward we've traded or lost on waivers. The other, Abe Kubel. Dryden Hunt, there's another idea. Dryden Hunt is basically just going to be what they thought Abe Kubel was. So that's how we got on the Malgin front.
I have one thing on Hunt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he scored against the Capitals. Like I think his first ever
Nice.
goal was against the Capitals. I knew
Arkansas.
that name somewhere. I knew him from somewhere, but like, yeah, that's about it.
That's good to
All I
hear.
knew about him was I remember seeing like Rangers fans early this year and last year being like, this guy is a decent bottom six guy, but for whatever reason, Gerard Gallant thought, I'm gonna make this guy a 2C for like a weird
That's right.
moment
He
in
was
time.
played
Yeah.
really high in the lineup. I
Yes,
remember
yes.
that.
And way too high for Rangers fans liking. They were like, this is
Yeah.
just like a Gerard Gallant guy that he trusts so much. A lot of coaches just have their guy. And for whatever reason, Dryden Hunt is Gerard Gallant's guy. That's basically all I've got on Dryden Hunt. We'll see what he looks like. Timmins was a good find. That's our most recent pickup. So we'll see if Dubas can keep it going. And Dryden Hunt did not play for the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds, and that's something that people care about. Yeah, I have no idea where the hell he played in juniors. Okay, so like Brian said, me and Dave, if you don't know that we're Leaf fans now, what the hell are you listening to, man? You just, yeah,
Are you new
I'm
here?
questioning. Are you? Yeah, maybe you're new. Maybe you are new here.
Maybe you
Me
are
and
new
Dave
here,
are Leaf
actually.
fans. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So
I don't know,
there
Dave.
you
You
go.
dropped it like you talked about the Leafs like 9 times, like already in this pod. A and B.
Just this episode,
Um,
yeah.
just going into this next topic. Christian
Yeah,
always sends Dave and I trades in our group chat, but we never talk about on the pod because like they're never like official. They're just trades he makes like in his head or like on Cat Friendly or
you
whatever.
gotta
And
you gotta be good enough to bring to everyone. Like the
and
Gavrikov one was.
The
You know,
Gavrikov
like,
one was pretty good.
here
and,
I was just to
sorry,
say
Brian,
this.
go on.
Sometimes he he hits the nail on the head, or sometimes he pulls up some interesting facts. And it just so happens that the night we talked about the Gavrikov trade, Frank Saravelli tweeted it out a little bit after. So we should have probably mentioned it on the
Dude,
pod, but
I think this Discord's wiretapped. It's not the first time that
Yeah.
like something that we've said has like kind of happened within like 24 hours, like on Twitter.
This is why.
It's
This
literally
is why
insane.
I need to get ahead of it. I want to be I want to be more than 24 hours like along with these guys so that it's not like I want to clear the doubt that I didn't find this from somewhere, that it was my actual thought. But
And-
always, the insiders, man, they really are inside.
inside our Discord. But but this is why we're probably gonna dedicate a little bit of time to Christian's theories and trade crafting because it's pretty interesting and sometimes when he gets it, it's kind of scary. But anyway,
I need to get it though. I need to actually get it. So Mark Spector brought this up yesterday about Gavrikov. I'm trying to remember what my actual trade proposal was. I should really pull it up because I had the Gavrikov and Nyquist thing. Let me see how quickly I can
I
find
remember
this.
it.
That's it's pretty high up on that.
It was Gavrikov,
Yeah.
Gavrikov and Nyquist for a first, a third, and a choice of a prospect. But it wasn't an A prospect. It was like a
A B, but probably like a
Yeah.
Ronnie Hirvin and Topi Niemela type.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
in that scenario, then so maybe I probably I'm probably undervaluing Nyquist or Gavrikov because that was the total package for two of those guys. Anyways, Mark Spector drops yesterday that the price for Gavrikov is a first and a third or fourth,
Holy
which
smoke.
is
That's cheap.
which is in line with Sherratt and Savard. Out of
It's
those
crazy
three
that you
defensemen,
nearly got that like spot on. Like you literally said first and a third,
That's cheap.
and then the fourth, like would that fourth also be going into Gus Nyquist as well? Like holy,
I feel like I'm
Potentially.
undervaluing Nyquist a bit. I feel like that's what it comes down to. If maybe I nailed the Gavrikov price, but for the combo package, you're probably looking at like a first and maybe it might be a second. But the problem is the Leafs don't have a second. Either way, what this tells us is the Leafs don't really need to be making this type of move. I know that when I had brought it up, Hall was absolutely sewering the team, and Sandin, we were having doubts about his development. But the Leafs D has changed how we think about this team. They have played themselves out of needing reinforcements via trade. And yeah, the rental price, I mean, the price for a rental top 4D looks to be a first at a minimum, if we're to believe what Spector's reporting there. So like guys like Gavrikov, Brian's got Dmitry Orlov, Luke Shen has been playing really high in the Canucks lineup. These are all guys that are, we can call them second pairing defensemen. If they're costing a first, that is not something the Leafs need. And the reason is simple. Who the hell do you take out of a healthy Toronto Maple Leafs D-man lineup? You got Riley and Brody. You've got Gio and Hall. You got Sandin and Liljegren. Right? Like, it does not make sense to be adding another guy who needs to be playing every day. And so we should be prioritizing a forward. That doesn't necessarily mean that you cannot add on defense, but we're looking more at like what the Leafs did in the bubble year when we brought in Ben Hutton as like a 7. I think that's basically what we got to do again this time around. Just find me a right-handed version of Jordy Ben is basically what I'm asking for. My not pipe dream because it's kind of realistic. If the Blues fall out of the picture, Nico Mikkola is the guy that I've got circled. He only plays 14 minutes a night for the Blues as like their 6th defenseman. I think he's played almost every game for them this year. He's only got like 1 point, but he's 6'4". That's all I needed to know. Once again, just a Jordy Ben type of guy. That's all I want. Nick Holden on Ottawa is a guy who's like 6'2", doesn't play a lot or many minutes, but even Scott Harrington. Dave, do you remember if Harrington played?
Yeah.
Did he play? He did play games for us, right? I couldn't remember.
I don't know if he played games in the NHL,
maybe just the Marlies,
but 100% with the Marlies, like 110%.
It was the Kessel trade, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, and then the other one I've got is Justin Braun. Me and Brian were talking a lot about Justin Braun last year as a trade target. Seems having a really good year. This year, I have no idea what the hell Justin Braun's been giving to the Flyers because he's got 0 points. Sometimes that's terrible, but other times he just might be completely focused on defense. And as the number 7, I don't hate it. And he was a good acquisition for the Rangers last year. And yeah,
Listen,
like I said,
I just want to jump in there on the Justin Braun thing. He's also not the only Flyers D-man with 0 points. I don't know if you guys saw this, but Rasmus Ristolainen, 0 points, dash on the season. Let's just
Dave, you hate that guy.
Want to put that out. I don't,
dude.
hate him.
Like he stinks.
He does it to himself.
Stinks. Yes.
Actually, he doesn't do it to himself. I'm
very surprised that Tortorella hasn't called this guy a toilet. Like, if you're calling Morgan Frost the toilet seat, what is Rasmus Ristolainen? Is he what's inside the toilet?
Yeah. Like, I don't know. Maybe his defensive game's kind of improved under Torts. I have no idea. Like, I didn't look at any stats.
Defense stats guys will tell you he is quite legitimately the worst player in the NHL. Like,
holy smokes,
bar none. That is what the stats guys will tell you.
Man.
And the non-stats guys should not be any different because just watch the guy play, look at his box score, and there's your answer. We've seen him be turned into a turnstile many times. I don't know, I don't know what's he going to do after this contract. I don't even know why it matters actually because he's
not going to get another one.
Dude, Jack Johnson's still in the league. Didn't he win a cup with Colorado?
He did win the cup. Yeah.
So if Jack Johnson survived, Eric Goodbranson just got $4 million or whatever, right? Like,
well, I don't think he's touching. I don't think he's definitely touching that type of money. It's gonna have to be like
contract.
Yeah, he'll definitely be somewhere. But
I just
maybe he stays with Philly, but it's gonna have to be at a discount, 100%.
Chuck Fletcher is just a terrible GM. Like I just hate Chuck Fletcher so damn much because I like the Flyers, and he has absolutely ruined the Flyers. It's not even funny, man.
Well,
He's got so many.
Not the first thing that you like that he kind of ruined. So
no, man. Like the Wild, he made them the Minnesota Mild. I have to come up with some stupid nickname for the Flyers, but
he was also high up on, I believe he was also the Leafs GM for a bit too. So
is he Cliff Fletcher's son?
Oh no, yeah, I'm thinking Cliff.
Yeah.
That's who it is.
Yeah.
That is his son though, I believe.
Yes. So that's why Chuck Fletcher has a job. And Chuck Fletcher's just not done much with his opportunities, if you're asking me. But anyways, besides that, where was I going with this? Oh yeah, so the Leafs defense have played well enough to not warrant a trade in order to bring in reinforcements. And part of this is we've seen the team face injuries and players rise up to the challenge. Was an injury, Morgan Riley injury, Broden injury. Who stepped up to the plate? Other than Sandin and Hall elevating their games after a slow start, Jordy Ben's come in and looked good. Victor Mete has been serviceable. Mac Hollowell showed something. Connor Timmins is being trusted more and more every game. And I wanted to highlight Hall because when was the last time we talked about a Hall turnover or anything? The last time we talked about it was when he threw a puck, right? And I think that was in the last Tampa game, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a while ago.
Yeah.
So just going to give kudos to Justin Hall for playing sound defense because even when we've talked on the podcast, we haven't brought up Justin Hall at all. And it's because
he's definitely improved his game 110%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So kudos to him. And yes, these are all the reasons why we don't need a defense. opposite situations happening now forward. We've seen the forward group face a little bit of adversity, specifically at that 2LW spot, and it's been a revolving door of guys. It's been Malgin, it's been Robertson, it's been Kerfoot, it's been Yarncrow. And Yarncrow looks like he might have solidified it a little bit, but even then, if you're a contender, is Cale Yarncrow in your top 6? Probably not. He is slotted perfectly on a third line. So let's not rest on our laurels and say Cale Yarncrow is the solution at 2LW. And Robertson, obviously injured now. He is no guarantee when he comes back healthy. And the other wild card in this is Matthew Nyes over there. That he's no guarantee though. He's going to be a rookie. You cannot assume that he's going to just take the 2 left wing spot and run with it. So you have to have an insurance policy for this. So I'd much rather have us overpay for a second line left winger than like a 4 or 5 defenseman. So who are the names
100%.
here, right? We're going to do all this talk. We've got to actually have names to put this to the test. Here's some of the guys that I highlighted. We've got Max Domi, who's making $3 million on a 1-year deal. He's got 20 points in 30 games for Chicago. He's playing high in their lineup. We got Nyquist, who I've mentioned before. He's 15 points in 32 games, $5 million. All these, actually no, one of these guys aren't UFA, but he's another guy who's just been given 40-point pace. Nino Niederreiter is the guy that I'm really coming around as a potential acquisition. He makes $4 million this year and next year, 15 points in the 30 games played on a Nashville roster that's been starved for offense. He's a guy who screams to me that like he'd be like a Tampa Bay acquisition. Like that is the model for who you want on the Leafs. You want guys that you say to yourself, but would Tampa acquire this guy? And I could just totally imagine Nino Niederreiter on the Tampa Bay Lightning because he fits the mold of guys they've acquired recently. The guys that I love on Tampa are Alex Killorn, Brandon Hagel, Nick Paul, Ross Colton, really underrated guy there. Those guys are what make Tampa so damn deep, right? Those are the type of guys the Leafs got to be acquiring. And that's just those are just the guys that are on Tampa right now. You have Palat, who just left as a free agent. You have Gaudreau, who they had to replace because of free agency. Blake Coleman, because of free agency. These are all guys that Tampa overpaid to acquire. First-round pick for Coleman. I think it was a first-round pick for Gaudreau. 2 first-round picks for Brandon Hagel. I think they got Paul pretty cheap. It might have been a third-round pick,
was
honestly.
Like a third-rounder, yeah.
Yeah.
Who, like, if the price was a third-rounder for Nick Paul last year, I don't know why we didn't.
And you know what? I think we were in on that. I think we were.
I know that they were because I remember seeing Nick Paul to the Leaf rumors. And it's like, oh my God, please. Like, I wish they could have just, you know what? If you have to overspend a little bit for Nick Paul, just do it. Do it. Yeah. That's like literally like, that's what you look like. If you saw, he was the one that burnt us in Game 7.
That's like, John Cooper. What did Nick Paul give for you guys in the playoffs? Dave, what was the answer?
I forget. What was it? 2 goals in Game 7?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh my!
And like, listen, it's always
that series.
It's
man.
always
just Cale Makar who could score. That's what he looked like. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Cale Makar didn't score a playoff goal for the Leafs. I'm pretty sure.
No, I don't think he did.
And outside of that, he was fantastic. Like he's what we're looking for. But if you don't score in the playoffs, you're not helping us here.
So
those are the archetype of players.
I actually really like this this idea of like the point you bring of, what Tampa does in the sense that they find good pieces and they're not afraid to spend because it's gonna give them value. It's like
they know that they're gonna fit the identity. They know that they're integral parts to their playoff success, right? They integrate these guys so damn well.
The comparison I'm gonna give is like to a white t-shirt. Okay? You can get the cheap white t-shirt from the store, but it'll break on you within, a week, and you're not going to get many wears of it. Or you can spend $60 on a nice white t-shirt, and it'll last you forever, and it's going to be good quality, right?
That's kind of white t-shirt.
Okay, but, you know what I mean. But it's kind of like like we were talking about the Hagel trade, for example, in our group chat, right? So I was on the boat that they overpaid for Hagel, right? But now it's paying dividends. Now he's locked up long term. Now it's going to be a cheap deal for a while, and he's providing.
Dude, it's numbers. Like $1.8 million for next year and maybe the year after. It was like a 3-year deal,
which is perfect with their window.
Yeah,
and yes, they might have overpaid, but if they get another cup run, which is very possible with this Tampa Bay
Yes.
roster,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
well worth it. And no one's going to be looking at the price they paid. If they find a
No.
way to get, let's say, 3 cups in 4 years, to me, that's a dynasty, right?
And
And
what do these guys have in common? Like Kalorn, Hagel, Paul,
they
Colson.
have that
These guys
something
can
in
go
the
up and
playoffs.
down your lineup, man. Yeah, but are they able to complain if they're not in the top 6?
No.
Or if they're on the 4th
No.
line? Hell no. These guys are up and down the lineup dudes. You throw them anywhere, they're fixers. They're a bunch of fixers, okay? Same with Palat, Gaudreau, and Coleman. And so Domi does he definitely sways more to the offensive side. I think you would want him at 2 left wing. I don't know how well he would work on a third line. It would be tough. You would have to be telling him to lean more into that gritty side of things, which he does have. He has a bit of a mean streak. We know that from his father. Nyquist is kind of. Once again, I'm kind of not souring on Nyquist, but I'm trying to see if once again do they pass the litmus test of how does this player look on a Tampa Bay roster? I don't know if Nyquist is the guy. He's more of a pure offensive guy. He can penalty kill, but not necessarily bringing something new to the Leafs there. Nino Niederreiter to me is that guy, man.
Yeah.
He's
I was
really
just
that
about
guy.
to say. I was about to say, dude, Nino Niederreiter might legitimately be the player to get the Leafs over the hump because that guy, he plays
Dude.
penalty kill as well too, right? If I'm not correct.
Yeah. I'm pretty
Dude,
sure.
I believe he does. Like I just remember his time with Carolina. He was such a standout player on the Canes for so many years, and he was like he was like the Brindamore archetype. Like he was the energy guy. You could put Nino Niederreiter. Okay, I wouldn't because I love Mike Bunting. You could put him up on that first left wing spot.
You could put him anywhere, man.
You could literally play him. Yeah, like that's the type of guy
He could work on the third line
want on
too.
the team. And he's also cost controlled for another year, like $4 million for another year after this. That's like,
your Kerfoot replacement in terms of cap space.
That's blessing in disguise. Yeah, exactly. $500K more for Nino Niederreiter, dude. You do that. You take that any day of the week. If I'm Kyle Dubas, that's the guy that I'm targeting. You also have Ryan O'Reilly on the list as well. 7.5 is a lot. That's a proven captain, cup winner. Conn Smythe winner, like center, exactly. I don't know. If it's between the two of them, I want to give the edge over to Nino Niederreiter just for cost control, price, and I think actual like offensive output. I know right now, like I could see right now, 10 goals to 9 goals. So Niederreiter has one more goal.
They both got 15 points.
Yeah, so maybe in offensive output they might put around the same, and I think that also skews in Niederreiter's favor just for like all the other things that I mentioned. Oh man, dude, if I wake up one day and I see Nino Niederreiter on the like I'll be honest with you, if I see any 4 of those players on the Leafs by trade deadline, I'm happy, but I would be especially happy if it's Nino Niederreiter. But I think his market, like, dude, for everything that we've just mentioned, I think he might have the most competition to go out and get. And I don't know how much that works in the Leafs' favor, just because it seems like they always kind of they want to
try and get the guy that no one else wants, but we try and get the guy
but it's like
that
has no appeal, basically, right?
Even Giordano, not that no one wanted Giordano, but it sounded like Giordano didn't want to go to many places, right? It's part of why we got him. It's a good point, but also, Dave, here's once again, how many teams are in on Brandon Hagel and Nick Paul? I bet a ton of teams. Teams. 100%. Who came out on top? Tampa, because they had to overpay. You just might have to do it. You just might have to do it, man. And listen, so what's the feasibility? Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, here's one other thing that kind of goes unmentioned. That Tampa defense, right? They like for how many years was Zach Bogosian for a while? Luke Shen was on there for a while.
Bogo. Stanley Cup winning Luke Shen.
Yeah, they have another guy on defense. It's not Perbix isn't the defense.
Nick Perbix. He's playing on their first pairing right now.
Dude, you could get away with not overspending on a defenseman like a Gavrikov. Like as much as it would be nice to see Gavrikov on the team. 100%. Dimitri Orlov.
Who the hell is he scratching, man?
Exactly. That's the thing, right? It's like we already have the personnel there, and now they are starting to show. Um, all you need from your defense is good defensive structure. It doesn't matter. Like you
Yes.
could chop and change names, right? But as long as like if you don't have that structure in place, it's like why are you even gonna bother, right?
I'll hear people out on the they want a butcher. They want a guy who another Ilya Labushkin, another Zach Bogosian. That's what I'll hear people out on. But they are not my plan A. My plan A is the six
No,
defensemen that we have when they're
that's
healthy.
yeah.
Plan
The
B
Ilya the
is one of
Bushkin
those
is
guys get
like
injured and you throw him in.
Ilya Bushkin's like you're throwing a fifth rounder at somebody for a guy like
Yes.
that, and he's
Yes.
coming in as your seventh forward. Sorry, your
That's it.
seventh D. But then that's
That's it.
another thing too. Like your 7D when everybody's healthy is Connor Timmins coming out of the lineup right now? Like the guy's got
You can
five
literally
points.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
he's got
Morgan
5 points
Riley
in like four
wasn't coming
games.
back, Connor Timmins is in the six right now. He's only not. He's
Yeah.
going to be the number 7 out of necessity once Riley comes back. Actually, well, Sandy might be injured, so he might still have
Sandy
a
might be hurt
spot.
too. Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, then if you get somebody else, is somebody else going in front of him? And then if it's
Exactly.
not, then why are we even like putting in the assets for it, right? So
Yes.
100%, 2LW has to be the position that's marked right now, especially with Malgin gone and that thing, it just didn't work 100%. We also mentioned Matt Nyes before. Listen, if he's coming in 6'3", 210s out of Phoenix, Arizona, right now he's just over
Sounds
a point a
familiar.
game, just over a point a game with the U of Minnesota. 22 points in 20 games, 11 goals, 11 assists, plus 13 as well. I don't know how much you want to take that into consideration, but like, listen, if it's not a big name and it's Matt Nyes coming in, I wouldn't be that upset. But if it comes down to the reason why we didn't get somebody like Nino Niederreiter and we're kind of forcing Matt Nyes to jump into this position is because we didn't want to give up an extra pick, or it's like maybe the prospect we wanted to give. Like, listen, if it's between, I don't know, I'm sorry to say it, but if it's between Nick Robertson and like to be the overpayment, I think I'm taking Nick Robertson out for a guy like Nino Niederreiter. I'm not gonna lie.
You
I'm
might
not
have to
fully
make the
sold.
overpay, man. You might have
I'm
to.
not fully sold on him either. Like, he's
Yeah.
got some injury history. I know I could definitely get burnt in the future. I'll preface that by saying like I could definitely get burnt in the future by saying this, and Nick Robertson could come in as like a point a game guy on any other team in the league.
It's the Trevor Moore thing though. Like Trevor
It's
Moore
it's
was
win now
serviceable when we
mode.
traded him. Yeah, yeah.
Exactly.
You
It's
were
win
making an
now mode.
upgrade. Tampa did it when they got Coleman. They traded one of their better prospects, Nolan Foote. Same
Yeah.
type of pedigree as Robertson. I don't think Nolan Foote has really cracked New Jersey's
Into
lineup.
the
Not to say
lineup.
that
Yeah.
Nick Robertson wouldn't crack whatever lineup he's on, but if there's any season to do it, it's this season. You have Matt Nyes as your Nick Robertson replacement in terms of you want to say like here's your up and coming prospect with tons of pedigree. That'll be Matthew Nyes. I think for me it's they're gonna it just feels like they're gonna give Matthew Nyes a shot in the NHL this year. They'll probably give him a go at 2 left wing. It is no guarantee it works out there. If it doesn't, could he work on a third line? Potentially. Could he work on a fourth line? Potentially. Might he be the 13th forward?
I
Potentially.
see at that
Let's get his
point. At
spring.
that point, if he's not playing even at the third line spot, I don't even want it. Like I would much rather just have him develop. I know he wants to stay. He made the choice to stay in college for this year, or else he very well could have been on this team
Yes. It
already.
was
I think.
close, man.
I think that
It
was
was
the
close
plan.
last
Was
year.
like to have him come up like now, basically. If he's not in that 2LW spot, and you get maybe not. If Nino Niederreiter is there, it's tough because it's like then he's also going to be on the team for next year, so maybe that's
Yes.
why they would go after somebody who's on an expiring contract, like a Gus Nyquist or a Domi or anybody else along that type of like caliber. But at the end of the day, that is where you should be targeting. 2LW is vacant right now. I think Bunting has played his way into keeping a spot on the first left wing spot, but I don't think we've tried Yarncroke, we've tried Engvall, we've tried Malkin. I could keep going. Kerfoot.
Robertson.
How many of the, none of those Robertson, none of those
They were
guys have
talking
stayed.
about Albert Kubel as an option there.
No, please no. I would much rather see Zach Aston Reese in that spot than Nick Kubel.
I will also
that
say
spot
this.
is open.
I will also make the point. We won in 2018. We called up a prospect that was sitting in our system for a while that year because we obviously lost a whole bunch of players, right? We lost Marcus Johansson. We lost
Forward or defense?
Forward. Huge difference maker. He's a superstar on another team. He's just coming back from long-term leave due to the players.
Oh yes,
his name is Jake Verana. Really, he was an absolute stud for us.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm also gonna you guys know me. I like the system. I like drafting. I like picking your prospects and promoting. But regardless, look at Tampa. They might have mortgaged their future for a little bit with all they're doing. But
Brian,
I
have a question though.
Tampa has those guys too. Though Ross Colton is that guy. Our Ross Colton is Pontus Holmberg. We have those guys too.
But
we do.
Listen, Brian, you scoff at that. Pontus Holmberg is nothing to scoff at.
Pontus Holmberg. Yeah, no, that's a solid third to fourth line. My
point is, they might have mortgaged the future for a little bit, but at the end of the day, when you mortgage the future and you win, no one remembers what you did.
It doesn't matter.
No, that's why you mortgage the future. What else do you mortgage it for, right?
Yeah.
Brian, I have a quick question on Verana. When he came up, where was he playing?
He was playing third line for a bit, and then he played second line after. Yeah, but
so in this comparable, let's say it's Matt Nyes that comes up, right?
Yep.
Where would you preferably want to see him play? You'd want to see him play on that second line spot, right?
That's where you start him.
Yeah.
You see if he's got it. But if he doesn't have it though, to me he can play third line. His play style, he's a 6'3" power forward who has a two-way game. To me, he can work on a third line. Let's say you're putting him with Pontus Holmberg and Cal Yarncroke. Give me that third line every day. That makes your fourth line. Your now options for the fourth line David Kampf, Zach Aston Reese, and then your 13th forward becomes one of Engvall or Kerfoot unless they're going out to make one of these deals work, right? Yeah. So that's a great roster.
I also wanted to tip this to the Leafs. When we promoted Verana, he had the opportunity to play with one of three: Kuznetsov, Backstrom, or Eller. Veteran players with so much passing talent. They play the cycle game, they just know how to set up players, right?
That's part of the argument for if you get O'Reilly.
That's part of the system.
Yeah, but would O'Reilly necessarily complain if we put him at 3C? Give us the three-headed monster. I don't know if he's the type of guy that would really complain and be like, I need top 6 minutes. I think you could potentially do that.
You could definitely move him forward, but I don't know. See, that's a tough one because it's I'm looking at that price, and it's dude, a lot of money has to be eaten if that's the case.
It literally has to in order to make the number work. I feel like Taze
that has to be a 3-team.
Yes, it has to be, or Engvall or Kerfoot have to go the other way.
100%.
Whoever gets traded first, Taze or O'Reilly, will set the market for the other guy. So I feel like if I honestly, if you're asking me, I want Taze to be traded first because I feel because of his cap hit, he probably won't cost as much. And if he doesn't, that might slightly bring down the O'Reilly price because you can always make the argument they're very similar players, yada yada. I can see that working out in favor, but I still feel like the price it's probably a first and a little bit more.
I also wanted to mention one more thing. Well, two more things actually.
Yeah.
Whoever you guys get or whoever you guys promote will be playing with two studs. Regardless, let's say it's either gonna be playing with Tavares, Nylander, or Matthews and Marner. You can't lose if you're the third guy.
Our top 6 becomes completely interchangeable if we get that 2LW.
Yeah.
For argument's sake, it's Nino Niederreiter. Let's say your second line at that point is Niederreiter, Tavares, and Nylander. If for whatever reason the chemistry there is lacking or the first line gets into a slump, all of those guys are interchangeable. You can put Marner with Tavares. You can put Niederreiter with Matthews, Nylander with Matt. You can change all of that. Bunting doesn't have to be stuck to Matthews' wing. He can slide on with Tavares all of it becomes interchangeable. You have so many more options in that top six. You aren't stuck with. We were forever. We were so scared of changing Matthews and Marner, right? You don't have that when that's your top six. You're getting two really good lines, no matter what combination you go with for forwards there. And there's the feasibility from Nashville's end. Nashville's very mediocre right now, even though I kind of said they're going to do that thing and like win the President's Trophy. Forget I never said that. They're kind of not good. So there's a world in which they want to sell off of Niederreiter, I think. I don't think I'm being unrealistic by saying that.
There's one more thing I wanted to bring up, just because, just for clickbait and for Dave's title. So we know Jonathan Toews is on the trading block. We also know Patrick Kane is on the trade block, and
I've never heard of this guy. Who is he?
Yeah, some nobody, right? We also know that Bo Horvat's on the trade block. Would you overpay for one of those two guys for a 1-year rental?
So I think honestly, out of all, I have pipe dream options on my little thing that I have here. My 4 pipe dreams are Bo Horvat, Patrick Kane, John Toews, and Timo Meier. Those are your 4 pipe dream options that I'm not about to convince myself we're going to trade for. Out of those 4, I'd probably go for Timo Meier just because there's certainty with him. He's an RFA. Even if his qualifying deal is $10 million, some team will be willing to pay that. I guarantee it, especially if he's successful on whatever team he gets traded to. That's the guy I would overpay for. That's the guy I'm giving a first, Nick Robertson, and I don't know what else do you want? Do you want Topi Niemela, Ronnie Hirvonen too? I'll do it. To me, that's the guy it is. After that, like Patrick Kane or Bo Horvat. An argument I've heard brought up is where did these guys play on the power play? It's a good point. Who are you taking off your power play? Actually, you know what? The Leafs have asked themselves this question too, and that's why they've gone to a 5-forward power play.
5-4.
What?
Never mind.
Yeah,
we've gone to a 5-forward power play. Well,
Mitch Marner has
Marner's played defense in one game. It was terrible, but power play is a different scenario. I don't hate it now that I think about it. Holy crap. Okay, maybe it's not the worst idea to overpay. Like you get Patrick Kane and Bo Horvat, that just you instantly become like you rival Boston at that point. Like it's just on paper, you rival Boston. You don't have to play them. Yeah.
If it's Bo Horvat, especially coming in, like, dude, there was probably maybe only a handful of players right now who are on a hotter form than Bo
count them on
Horvat
one hand
right now. Yeah. Right. So if you're gonna get that, like 100%, you make exceptions on the power play. Like, unfortunately, like. That's just like
even when Riley comes back, you go 5 forwards if you make these steps back.
It's kind of like suffering from success, right? Like you just have an abundance of talent, right? It's just now
GM,
it's like
DJ Khaled.
You got to put it all together, exactly.
Yes,
Khaled. Yeah, that's where it is, right? It's like now you're gonna have the amalgamation of like all the lineups and stuff, but like, can it work? Like, can it happen? That's where the next question lies, I think.
All right, Dave.
Listen, boys, this is going to be an arms race. Like, Boston's going to be looking for one of these guys, too.
Oh, my God.
Tampa was apparently in rumors as being interested in Horvat. Get the hell out of here.
Mark my words, Ryan O'Reilly is going to be a Boston Bruin.
Oh,
that
Jesus
just
Christ.
screams.
He looks like Christ.
Boston Bruin, dude.
See, so once again, the litmus test is also would Boston acquire these players? Because you can say it for Max Domi, Gus Nyquist, I could see it. Nino Niederreiter. Oh God, please no! I will cry.
Please, dear Jesus.
O'Reilly.
If Nino Niederreiter goes to Boston, dude, I think I'm throwing my phone out and I'm not coming on another podcast again.
That was literally me. That was me when the Bruins signed Craig Smith, who just went on waivers and no one picked him up. For whatever reason, I was like, "We need Craig Smith. The Leafs need Craig Smith." And when the Bruins signed him, I'm like, "Of course, of goddamn course."
Everybody too.
Yeah.
All right.
Gregory Smith over there.
All right, Dave. You're welcome for the title. Patrick Kane or Bo Horvat to the Leafs? ? Exclamation mark.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Enough. Good clickbait. Anyway, anything you guys want to say before I close off?
No, I think that's it. Maybe just like we do a little Merry Christmas greeting.
Okay.
And that's it. Yeah.
Okay, we're in 3, 2, 1. We wait. No, I'm joking. Not about to sing. Yeah,
but
no.
the girl singers.
Yeah. Happy holidays to everybody.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching. If you do, especially because you've chosen to listen to this podcast on your holiday time. Let's go. So if you chose to do that, very much appreciated, and happy holidays if you're listening.
Dave, you got anything
Yeah.
else?
No, yeah, happy holidays. Thank you. Like if you decide to maybe make this your source for I wouldn't say like it becomes anybody's like source for like information, but like if this becomes your podcast, like we want to wish you a Merry Christmas. Thank you for being here. If this is your first episode or you're on your what is this, 13 now?
13.
We always
Holy
forget.
smokes.
Yeah.
The Matt
Holy
Sundin
smokes, we're at
episode.
13.
We've
Yeah,
been
we are at the
running
Matt
up to
Sundin
this.
episode.
Okay, so
Next is Davey Keon.
Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas to the Boston Bruins specifically, because they are also their main sponsor on their broadcast. I was watching the game, Bruins game the other day, is actually Fubo TV. So that's where I get the link
Oh,
right there. Shout out to
fair
Fubo
enough.
TV. Shout out to Razor. Shout out to NHLShop.ca. Boxing. Boxing Day sales are coming. Be sure to check that out. I know Fubo TV is running an awesome promotion right now. In the States, you can actually check out, your local team, the Bruins, Capitals. They have NBC, they have ESPN, they have all that fun stuff. Even the NHL Network over in the States. In Canada, you got Hockey Night in Canada on Fubo TV. And yeah, that's basically everything. Check out our articles that we
You
haven't
should have
posted in a
raised it.
while.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did shout Razor.
Check out my TikToks. I made a few this week.
Yeah, check out Dave's
Yes.
TikToks. He's been working
Dude,
super
they're
hard on
color
those.
coordinated now, man. Let's go.
Yeah.
Check out those
Dude,
TikToks.
it's so easy to do them too. I love it.
Oh man.
And we didn't talk a lot about soccer this pod, but if you happen to live in Canada, you're interested in the Premier League, Boxing Day soccer is the best. It's like a tradition for the Premier League. You can check it on Fubo TV, and yeah, that's everything. Get the phone app, and
Did we shut out Razor?
yeah, we did like 3 times, bro.
Sweet.
Okay. One more thing. As you guys see on our overlays, we have a whole bunch of space. If you're looking to get your logo up there or looking to get a title sponsor, that's always going to be up there too. That is everything. Merry Christmas. No episode next week on Sunday.
Yeah.
That's a wrap.